Okay, in this video we're going to learn how to format our HTML content quickly and efficiently using a couple built-in features of Visual Studio Code as well as some of the features of the Emmet addition to Visual Studio Code that comes with Visual Studio Code. Anyway, I've got a file of text here. It's available on my website in the Felakuti basic markup exercise. If you download that and open it up in the Visual Studio, you can pause this video in places and try some of the things I'm doing. So what we see when we open the file up is we've got a whole lot of text. And I've given you the file with some of the HTML skeleton but very little other HTML markup in it. Your job is to figure out what each element should be. And, you know, here it says Afrobeat jazz but better. Obviously that's going to be an H1 at the top of our page. Then we've got what looks to be a menu: home, music, video, search, contact, and then varying levels of heading. And all the headings I've put here in capital letters to make it easier to distinguish. I've also got a bunch of paragraphs, and if we see over here on the side this little map of the document that we can drag around the document to navigate very quickly. Of course, if I test this page in the browser, what we end up seeing is it looks like one long sentence because there's no markup. So let's first of all take care of the paragraphs as an example. So we got about 30 or 40 paragraphs here, and it'd be kind of tedious to put our opening and closing p tag at each one and then have to do it 30 or 40 times. So here's the first thing I'm going to suggest as a shortcut. You'll notice the first paragraph here, starting around line 26, introducing the subject of the article, Fela Kuti, the famous Nigerian musician. Currently I've set my content to wrap, but I'm actually going to change that to no wrap. So I'm going to go to the View menu, go Toggle Word Wrap. Oops. I turned off the mini map, which is the sidebar thing. I'm going to toggle the word wrap. So now each of my sentences is going off the edge of the screen, but it looks much shorter when we think about it vertically. And this is going to allow me to select all the paragraphs very quickly. Specifically, if I click on the line number, that selects an entire paragraph for me. Now if I move down in this little mini map on the side and I press my Command key or Control if you're on Windows, I can now click on any line number beside a paragraph, and you will see now I am making multiple selections. What's more, they're discontiguous, which is really cool, and any good coding editor should allow you to do this. Visual Studio makes it very easy too. So I'm going to click on each line number that has a paragraph. Then I'm going to move down the document some more, find more of the paragraphs, holding down Command on Mac, Control on Windows, adding additional selections. It's like I've got a selection of selections. So what we see here, each paragraph looks like it's only one line, but that's because the line stretches on for a very long distance. So ultimately, I now have about 30 or 40 selections. What's going to be a paragraph we want to wrap in a p tag. Here's how we do it, and this is a beautiful shortcut. Atom has similar shortcuts, Sublime Text does too, Visual Studio Code. To do this, I want you to do Command-Shift-P if you're on the Macintosh, or Control-Shift-P if you're on Windows. And we're going to use the wrap with abbreviation command. So this Command-Shift-P shortcut opens up what's known as the command palette. So remember P for palette. You can find any command in Visual Studio or those that are added by any extensions you install inside the command palette. And it uses fuzzy logic. In other words, we can type part of the command and it will complete it for us. So I'm going to type wrap, and we see here we get wrap with abbreviation. Emmet, so an Emmet command wrap with abbreviation. I'm going to make sure that's selected, then I'm going to press return. We then see again at the top of the screen, it says enter abbreviation. So the abbreviation here is literally the tag that I want each of these selections to wrap in. So the tag is P. I'm going to now press enter to confirm. If you forget to do this, it won't work, but I press enter. Voila, I now have 30 or 40 paragraphs marked up with very little effort. If I now go back to the view menu and go toggle word wrap, we see that each of my paragraphs is nicely marked up. If I save the file and go back to, or actually go load it again in Chrome, now we see our paragraphs are marked up nicely. Okay, so let's repeat this concept, but make it even a little bit more cool. So I'm going to select here Afrobeat, jazz, but better. And I want this to be wrapped in an H1. So I'm going to do Control-Shift-P. I'm going to choose wrap with abbreviation. And what's nice is that our last command, or our recently used commands, are here up at the top. So I'm going to make sure, oops, I screwed that up. Wrap with abbreviation is selected. Enter abbreviation. I'm going to type in H1. And if I want, I can add a class to it by going, or actually we haven't covered classes yet, so don't worry. So I'll just do an H1. Okay, then I'm going to scroll down a little bit. And here, I'm going to ignore the menu for a second. Fela Kuti, the subject of the article, assuming it's a website called Afrobeat Jazz But Better, Fela Kuti should be in H2. So Command-Shift-P for Mac, Control-Shift-P for Windows. Wrap with abbreviation, H2. Beautiful. Oh, whoops. I need to pay more attention when I'm doing this. I'll try it again. I undid. I got to do it again. Command-Shift-P, wrap with abbreviation, H1. Okay, my apologies. Let me try now. Fela Kuti, I'm going to wrap an H2 around it. Command-Shift-P, Control-Shift-P, Windows. Wrap with abbreviation, H2. Okay. Biography. I'm going to assume that I want that to be an H3. Command-Shift-P, H3. Oops. Command-Shift-P, wrap with abbreviation, enter abbreviation, H3. I will let you do the other headings, but now I'm going to go to my menu. Now watch what we're going to do here. You'll notice that because I did some escapes, etc., or whatever, my paragraph wrappings are now gone, but don't worry. What I'm going to do is select the items that I want to be in my menu. So here I have home, music, video, search, and contact, and they're all on their own lines tabbed in. And the tabbing doesn't matter either. Just they're on their own line. It makes it easier to do what we're going to do here. So right now I've got a single selection. But What would be nice is to wrap each of these words in a tag, an anchor tag, with a testing link, the hash mark as the href value, and then maybe wrap them in a list, because a menu is often presented as a list since it's a list of options. So I've got a single selection right now, but if I go to the selection menu and go, I know the keyboard shortcut, here, add cursors to line ends. This is a horrible way of explaining, or a horrible description of it in Visual Studio. Other editors say split into lines, which is a beautiful way of describing it. But I'm going to do that. Add cursors to line ends. What we see here now is we actually have 5 separate cursors. Another way we can do that is if we click and then command click at the end of each line, we have the same concept. So a lot of very expensive software like InDesign cannot do multiple cursors, and it's always struck me as bizarre that free software like Visual Studio can do it. The advantage here now is what we're going to do, what we would normally do as one operation, we can do multiple times simultaneously. So try this. If I press Command left arrow on the Mac, and I think you can do it with Control left arrow on Windows. I hope so. If not, please find out how Windows moves to the end or beginning of a line. So I'm doing left and right arrow while holding Command on the Mac. What we've got here, and actually bear with me, I noticed we've got a few extra tabs here. Okay. What we have here then is an ability to simultaneously do the same thing in multiple lines. Now if I add shift to that previous command, so command left arrow or command right arrow goes to the beginning or end of a line, but if I add shift, it turns it into a selection. So whether I'm going forward or backwards, I now have 5 simultaneous selections, which is pretty cool, if I do say so. Now with these 5 selections, I'm going to do Command Shift P for Mac, Control Shift P for Windows to bring up the command palette. My last command, Emmet wrap with abbreviation, is the one I'm going to choose. So I'm going to press return. It asks me to enter the abbreviation. I'm going to put an A for anchor. I'm going to press return, which is really cool. What's more though, look at the blinking cursor. The cursor has been placed in each of these lines right where we want it to put in the attribute value, the href attribute value. Because we're just testing here, I'm going to make a testing link, the hash, the £, and this will make the word home, the word music, the word video, etc. act like links, but they don't go anywhere because we don't have additional pages yet. But we want to see how the design would work. So there we are. We've created 5 links on separate lines, just beautifully quick. But now I want to wrap each of these links into an li tag. So I'm going to go Command left arrow to go to the start of the line. Or I could do Command right arrow to go to the end of the line. It doesn't really matter. And if Control right arrow doesn't work on Windows, please find the shortcut because it's really handy in this kind of work we're doing. Anyway, now I want to turn each line into a selection again. So I'm going to do Command Shift right arrow. Again, same concept. We now have 5 lines selected. I want to wrap them each in an li. So Command Shift P, or on Windows Control Shift P, brings up the command palette. The Emmet wrap with abbreviation was my last command, so it's automatically selected. I press return. Emmet/Visual Studio Code asks me what abbreviation do I want to put in, what tag do I want to put in, an LI. There we go. Now what we see is the LI, because an LI is a block element, I'm guessing Visual Studio Code or the Emmet utility is making it each of the LIs be on its own line. And I think this is kind of nice for formatting, but kind of also kind of messy as well. So if I want them all to be on the one line, because I've got my cursor in the same place, I can actually simultaneously do this. Notice how the cursor's at the end of the closing LI. If I just do Command left arrow, or maybe 4 or 5 left arrows to get to the end, this puts me at the start of the line, and I can just press delete a few times. Now my LI is at the end of the line. I can do Command left arrow to go to the front of the line, press delete a few times. Maybe I want to move the whole thing in a little bit, so I'm going to use the left arrow to go to the front of the line, and I'm going to press delete once or twice. So I got a bunch of LIs. Next, I want to put a UL around that whole bunch of LIs. So what I'm going to do is select all of them, and I include a blank line above and below when I'm doing this kind of selection, because I want the UL to be up above and below. So I'm going to do Command Shift P, hopefully Control Shift P on Windows. Wrap with abbreviation, default because I was the last command. I'm going to press return. I'm going to type in UL. Beautiful. I've got an extra space here. Maybe I shouldn't have added that space. So I'm just going to tidy it up by using my delete key. Finally, because this is our main navigation element, I'm going to want to wrap this UL in a nav. The nav element just behaves like a box that holds the UL, which is already a box, but the nav signifies this is significant navigation for the page. This is useful for screen readers, and it's useful for search engines. So Command Shift P, wrap with abbreviation, nav, beautiful. So that, in a nutshell, is how we can very, very quickly use some beautiful built-in features of Visual Studio Code.